Hi everyone, welcome to the Postcard Podcast. My name is Rebecca. Greetings from Hollywood, Florida, again. One day this will change. Currently, well, it was 10:30, but then I got distracted talking to my friend, Bobby, and every time I text her, I feel like I can talk for hours about literally everything, and I love it so much, and just having deep conversations is one of my favorite things. So now it's 11:30, 11:40. Normally I film in the afternoon and not in the morning. I guess it's not morning anymore, it's almost afternoon, but normally I do film in the later afternoon, but I wanted to be productive and get a little bit of a head start on my day, and I've been feeling a lot more productive this week than I was last week and the week before, which I'm really happy about. So this week I'm going to talk about procrastinating finally, and especially procrastinating as a perfectionist. But first, like a little life update, I kind of want to start with that. I have been finally getting good sleep lately. I feel great. Ever since last week, I don't remember. It's been about 7 to 10 days-ish. Feels like a week, but it's probably more because my perception of time is just horrible, absolute shit. But it's probably 10 days, and that's crazy to think about because time flies, and I don't like that. One of my biggest fears is time just passing by so quickly. But yeah, I changed my sleeping arrangement basically in my house, and I've just been getting so much better sleep. It's been crazy just how much better sleep I've been getting just from changing where I sleep and like the position of where I'm sleeping and stuff like that. I now go to sleep. I fall asleep between like 12 and 1 p.m., 12 and 1 a.m., which before I would fall asleep around like 3 or 4, if even that. And then I would just wake up throughout the middle of the night, and I would have nightmares, and I would wake up feeling groggy, and I would wake up at like 11 a.m. and just feel disgusting. Whereas now I fall asleep between 12 and 1, sometimes immediately, but recently it's been the first few days, it was like immediately. I would get into bed at 11:30, knock out immediately, and I would wake up at like 7:30. Just without even an alarm. I would just wake up. And now, as time has been passing, I've been falling asleep a little bit later, which is probably me staying up and using my phone when I shouldn't be. Whereas the first few nights I was just really exhausted from not sleeping for a few days in a row that I would just immediately fall asleep. So I should stop going on my phone, but now I've been falling asleep around like 12 or 1 a.m. and I wake up still early enough, like 8:30. This morning I woke up at 9, which is the latest I have in 10 days basically, which is crazy to think about that the latest I've woken up in the past 10 days is 9 a.m. when before I used to wake up at 11 a.m. And I feel like that's changed so much of how I feel productive. And I know everybody knows this, or at least most people know this, that if you wake up early, you get more done throughout the day. I feel like this should be common knowledge, but again, common knowledge isn't all that common sometimes, I guess. But if you wake up early in the morning, I feel like you just have a head start on things. And so that's how I've been feeling. But then I get that grogginess around like 2 or 4 p.m. after I eat lunch. Well, I eat lunch around like 1, but around 2 to 4, I get the grogginess. So that's still been hard to feel productive during that time. I've already had 2 coffees this morning. I've had my hot coffee right as I woke up, and now I'm drinking an iced coffee. So I usually don't drink this much coffee, or I used to, but then I cut coffee maybe about 6 months ago, and I only had 1 cup a day for the past 6 months. But recently I've been drinking coffee more, just because I've learned to make really good coffee, like iced coffee at home. So I'm already on coffee number 2, and it's 11:30. So I'm I'm probably going to have a caffeine crash later on. But I actually love mornings, which is weird because I never would wake up in time to actually enjoy my morning. But I love mornings, and I love slow mornings more than anything. Just being able to, I do like how I said that when you wake up early in the morning, you feel more productive and you get more done in the day. But I just love a slow morning, like waking up, doing your skincare or whatever your routine is in the morning, eating breakfast, and just kind of like sitting, enjoying and relaxing and eating that breakfast and your coffee or whatever you drink or have in the morning. I just love it. It just makes me feel so happy. Like this morning I woke up, I showered. That's the first thing I always have to do. Shower, get dressed for the clothes for my day. I normally just wear comfy clothes to stay at home, and do my skincare, sunscreen, which I only started wearing the last few months, 4-ish months this year. I started wearing it this year because my friend gave me a sunscreen for my birthday in December. And I used to never have sunscreen as part of my skincare routine, and it's changed my life. And I know I should have started earlier, but listen, I just didn't really care about my skin that much, and I just didn't care. And then when it was basically forced upon me by having it given to me as a gift, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because now that when this sunscreen ends, it's still not, the bottle is still holding strong. I still have some left, even though it's been about 4 months and I use it every day, maybe even twice a day sometimes. I'm not really well knowledgeable about skincare and products and stuff like that. But now that I use sunscreen, I will be buying more sunscreen once this bottle ends. So it's something that has now been assimilated into my daily routine, and I love it. So I did that. I did my skincare, and then I made my breakfast, and my mom brought croissants she works near a bakery. So last night she brought croissants. So I had a delicious croissant and coffee this morning, and then got up, made my bed, did all my little productive stuff, and sat to start recording this, and then got distracted on my phone. But, I've still done a lot. Or more than I used to, at least. I've also learned to start being happy with the little things and happy with my little progress throughout my life, which is very hard for me to do. But I've always been told by my close friends that I need to just be happy with my progress. And this is something that I'm trying to implement in my life and be okay with the little things that I do. Like when a day ends and I feel like I've done only like 2 things on my to-do list that I set for myself every morning, and I get upset that I've only done 2 of the things that I wanted to do today instead of the 15 things that I wanted to do today. I'm trying to look at it as, hey, you got those 2 things done, and now they're done, and you don't have to do them again, and you've accomplished at least 2 things. Yes, you didn't get to the other. Why do I always focus on the negative? Because even if I'm trying to be positive and be proud of my accomplishments, the little accomplishments and the little progress, I always have to mention, yes, you didn't do this, but someday I'll get to the point where I'll be like, hey, I'm okay with the fact that I only did 2 things, and that's it, end of sentence. But for now, my thought process is, hey, you're okay with only doing those 2 things, even though you could have gotten to the other 14, and you should have. We'll let it slide, and I'm going to be happy with the 2 things. So it's a work in progress. It's a lot more than what I used to say. I used to just be like, you did nothing. But no, I did 2 things. So working on that, I guess that is adds a little into the perfectionism and procrastination vibe. Yesterday, I actually did a bunch of little restocking. Also, I noticed I say little for little, like little cup, little restocking. I say that often. I didn't realize that was a thing that I say, but I've noticed it in editing these episodes that I say that. But I did a little restocking of all my stuff. I said it again. Of all my stuff. I made iced tea. I made iced coffee. I recently bought a Ninja Creami like 2 days ago, and it's been the most exciting purchase of probably my life. And I restocked those. I made a strawberry one, like a strawberry ice cream with it's just milk, vanilla protein powder, and fresh strawberries in there. So I restocked that, and then I did another one, which was an acai bowl, because I want to have an acai bowl tonight. I've never tried doing the acai bowl, so I'm going to do that tonight, and hopefully it comes out good. And yeah, I enjoyed doing that. I'm not that type of person to do restocks of the house, like the ones you see on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and it's like restocking your entire house or your fridge or whatever it is, your pantry for the week. I'm not that type of person to do that, but I'm slowly trying to be, because I just really love the idea of it. I just have not been able to execute it. So yesterday I tried doing a little bit of that. I did iced coffee and iced tea, and the creamies, and that's basically it. That's a step. We've got a step, ladies and gentlemen. And that was unfortunately basically all I did yesterday. That's a lie. I did more than just restock those things. I also cleaned the house, organized my room a little bit, researched looked into a trip that I want to do. So looked at tickets for flights and trains and hotels and stuff like that. So I researched a little bit of that, researched some jobs, like applied to some jobs. I'm looking for different things. I'm trying to find a job in my field that I studied, and it's been incredibly difficult. It makes me very upset. So did that. That was frustrating. I also wanted to work out yesterday, but I didn't really get a chance to. And I could have, but I knew that I shouldn't have, because my knee was really hurting. I was in a car accident a few years ago, and my knee and my back is just a problem for me ever since. So, and yesterday it was just really locked, like the knee was really locked and hurting a lot. So I didn't want to aggravate it by working out. So I didn't. The day before that though, I did work out, and I probably pushed too hard, which is why my knee was hurting yesterday. But I don't think I pushed too hard that day, because that was the day that I had this man. There was an incident. This man was I saw him recording me at the gym. So it's not funny. But he was circling me, and I could tell that he was circling me. I mean, you just are aware of these things. And I was on the torso rotation machine, and I just saw him continuous. I saw him once go around, and then he went around again. And then he stopped at a machine right in front of me, facing me, and was just staring at me consistently, to the point where I felt very uncomfortable. And then he did another circle around me. And then I noticed him stop and do some stretches for 2 seconds. Who gets on a machine and does 2 seconds of that machine and then leaves, and then does another, and then circles around, does a long way, and then goes on another machine right near the one you were at, but you didn't walk that way, you just walked the long way around. So that was weird to me. And when he was doing the stretches, I can tell he was holding his phone in a weird way, and I saw that he was recording me. So I moved and I went to a different machine, and I was contemplating going up to the front desk. I should have just gone immediately, but I was like, oh, I was like, what? Did I see this? Did he actually record? I just couldn't really believe it. So I went to a different machine, and I saw him look at me again, staring at me again, and coming closer to me. And then when he wasn't looking, I got up and I left, and I saw that he went towards the machine that I went to, the second machine that I went to. So that's when I was like, okay, that's weird. And I went to the front desk and told the manager, and the operational manager was also there coincidentally. And they didn't really do anything. The operational manager, I think it was the manager. The lady was the manager, I think. And then the operational manager was right behind her. And the operational manager asked me for a description and to point him out. And he followed me to go into the area to point him out, and I couldn't really find him. So I didn't remember what he was wearing. And then when he went back to the front desk and he took a phone call, and then I saw him and I saw what he was wearing, and I went back up to the front desk to tell him his description, and he basically ignored me and walked away on the phone call. And I told the manager lady who was there, who I talked to in the first place, along with him, I told her the description, and she supposedly went to go tell him, or told another employee to go tell him. And then she told me to go back to my workout, and I just did, because what was I supposed to do? Really, they should have done something, but I just went back to my workout and tried to remain calm, and the guy was not really around me anymore after that, thankfully. And I thought that the other employee went to go tell him the description, and I kept looking for the operational manager the entire time that I was there, like the rest of my workout, and I just couldn't see him. I didn't see the woman manager either, so I couldn't really ask for an update. I did go up to the front desk at one point to ask for an update, and nobody told me anything. They said they would get back to me. So then I went back again to my workout, and then when I left, I was like, okay, I would like an update, or like to know if you guys did anything. So I left my phone number, and the operational manager called me back a few hours later and asked if I had a description. And I said, yes, I literally gave the description to the manager and to the other employee. And he ignored the fact that I said that I already gave the description. And he was like, okay, what is it? Because I gave the description. So you guys should have known this a long time ago. So he asked for the description. He said that he was super busy that day, or in the morning, whatever, when I was there. He said he was super busy, so he couldn't have a talk with the guy or find the guy or look at the cameras. And so that's just it, that he was going to look at the cameras now, but that next time, if he's there again and if the same thing happens, then to let him know or somebody else know, and then they'll have a conversation with the man and give him his final warning. So that made me really upset, because he should have had, first of all, final warning. It should have been banned. But regardless, their policy is final warning, whatever. But his final warning should have been that day. But because they were too busy, they didn't sit down. They did nothing at that time because they were too busy. They said they were too busy, and they didn't really do anything. And I checked back. What I wasn't really, I wanted to do more, and I wanted to ask more and be like, hey, do something, but there was not really much more I could do other than asking them multiple times, hey, what's an update? And I asked multiple times to the point where they were no longer seen. So, that's really annoying because yeah, but that happened this week. So to move on to the topic of procrastination, I feel like even though this week I've been feeling a lot more productive than I used to be, I still feel like I have not done much of the things that I wanted to get done, which is probably me being hard on myself, but it does feel like that. And at what point is it just being hard on yourself and it actually being that you haven't done a lot? At what point is that? For me, that's a hard line to cross, but I just feel like I haven't done as much as I've wanted to do, and I've been still, even though I'm more productive and I'm procrastinating a lot less than I was a week ago, 2 weeks ago, there's still procrastination happening. I can tell. Yesterday, probably could have done a lot more than just the restocking stuff and the travel and the job things. I could have, done so much more, and journal and stuff like that. I really want to journal. I haven't journaled in so long. I haven't read in so long either. I love reading, and I feel like I just haven't read in so long. I also have a pottery thing, a pottery, what's it called? A pottery item that I've made that I have to finish, and I've made it for my friend, and I'm hanging out with her on Sunday, and I have to finish it before Sunday, and I just have not. And I've had this for maybe 2-3 weeks, and I just haven't done it yet. So I am still procrastinating, just not as much. What are the causes of procrastination, or why do we procrastinate? I feel like people procrastinate because of stress and anxiety and pressure that they put on themselves. For me personally, I procrastinate. Let me see. Let me really dig deep into why I procrastinate so much. I feel like on one hand, I procrastinate because I think, oh, I'll do it later. Oh, you know what? There's different levels of my procrastination, or different reasons for my procrastination. I feel like reason/level number one, I procrastinate because I push it off and I say, okay, I'll do it later. And then I just never really get to it. And then it's the next day and I'm like, okay, I'll do it later. For example, journaling. Every day I wake up and I set my to-do lists for the day. And every day I put journaling on the list. But I don't prioritize journaling because that's something for me. It's something personal and it's not really necessary. Other stuff like work and this podcast and working out come before I want to do journaling. So I do those first and I kind of push journaling back. And then it gets to a certain time of day where I'm like, fuck it, I'll just do it tomorrow or whatever. So I push it back and then it just keeps pushing back. And this will continue, like this cycle will continue until one day I wake up and I don't have any of the other priorities to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing journaling first today. And then that's the day it will get done. So one reason is pushing it back. The second reason is because in my twisted little brain, I like to do things at the specific time and the specific setting that I feel like I associate that task with. So let me explain. I associate, let's say pottery. I associate doing pottery with a mid-afternoon, this feels so stupid when I'm like explaining it, but this is how my brain works. I associate pottery with a mid-afternoon time frame, and it has to be a sunny, breezy kind of day. I talked about last week how I love outside and doing activities outside and my hobbies outside, and pottery is one of those hobbies that I love doing outside. So I can only do pottery if it's not a hot day outside and it's like a super nice breezy day, and it has to be like after 4 p.m. I can't do pottery in the morning. I don't know why. Why can't I, especially now that I've been waking up early, why can't I just do pottery at like 10 a.m.? Nope. I have to wait till 4 p.m. to do pottery because that is the quote unquote time frame that I associate with that task or activity. Journaling, for example, I feel like I associate journaling also with the afternoon time period, and I associate it more with, instead of 4 like pottery, I associate it more with like 2 p.m., 3 p.m. to kind of like 4 or 5. I don't like journaling at night. That's not to say that I don't. Well, I don't, because I haven't been journaling recently, but there is a specific, I have 2 different types of journals. I have one journal that's kind of like my post-therapy session journal, my feelings journal, things that are going on, that type of journal. Then I have another journal, which is journal prompts, and it's a prompt in the morning and a prompt at night. It's the same prompt every day, and it's like in the morning, there's a few different questions. It's not just one prompt. Okay, so I got the journal because I was blanking completely on the prompts. So the morning, it just says sunrise. You write your current mood, then your goals for the day. It has 3 listed, but I always list more. I always like fill them in and write like 4 or 5 at least. Then it's, how can I make today enjoyable? Today I'm looking forward to, and what can I do to be my best self today? Which that one I always answer as don't stress. Then for sunset, which you fill out at night, is your current mood again. What did I do well today? What brought me joy today? And I am grateful for. So basically for this journal, I don't mind journaling at night because obviously the prompt is to answer it in the morning and answer it at night. So for this specific journal in my head, I can do it at night, but this only takes like 5 minutes. My other journal, the one that I said first, the feelings journal, post-therapy journal, that type of stuff, what's going on in my life, that journal, that one I only associate with the 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. type of thing, and I don't associate with nighttime. That's why I always push it back, because at a certain point, it gets to like 6 p.m. and then I'm like, well, it's too late to journal. I can't do that. I totally can. It's just like a mental thing that I have in my head where I can't, like, it just doesn't feel like the right time, so I can't do it. So that's another reason I procrastinate. That might be something totally personal to myself, and maybe you understand this feeling and you guys, some of you do this as well, but that's just something that I personally deal with. I don't know if that's a very common reason for procrastination. It feels very specific, but that's my second reason for procrastinating, is waiting for the perfect time, basically. And my third level / reason for procrastinating is because I worry I won't be good enough, or I won't do it well enough, or stuff like that. That's the perfectionism speaking, that I want it to be perfect. Again, with perfect, it's perfect, not perfect time, but perfect outcome. And I put it back because of the anxiety and stress related to doing that thing, and doing it means you have to accomplish it well. So I push it back so that if I guess it's like, if I never do it, or if I keep pushing it back and it takes me forever to do it, then if it takes me forever to do it, then maybe by the time that I do it, I will have a good accomplishment, because I will have, like, time will have passed and I would have gotten better at whatever it is I have to do. I don't have a specific example for that right now, but it's like, maybe if I push it back to a month from now, in a month from now, I'll have those skills to do that task in the way that it will come out good. Whereas if I do it now, I won't accomplish it in the perfect way. Or if I push it back long enough, then I can avoid being a failure, basically. Or it's like, I don't have to be a failure right now. I can be a failure in a month. And it's like, I push back the idea of failing, and I don't want to fail. So I keep pushing it back so I don't have to experience doing it. So those are my reason for procrastination. Doing a little bit of research, it says that the common symptoms associated with procrastination is depression, anxiety, stress, loneliness, and reduced life satisfaction, which all make a lot of sense. And I feel like everybody has their own ways of feeling those emotions and expressing those emotions, and how they manifest and surface in your day-to-day life. Like my stress and anxiety and those symptoms, I do be having depression, anxiety, stress, loneliness, and reduced life satisfaction. I have all of those to different levels and to different extents. So those for me, but specifically anxiety and stress, manifests themselves in the three reasons that I said, like the pushing it back and the perfect time. The perfect time one, like my second reason for procrastination, that really doesn't stem from any depression, anxiety, stress, loneliness, or reduced life satisfaction. That's just something in my head. That doesn't really stem from any of those. But the first one, like the first reason I procrastinate, which is just pushing it back. Actually, maybe that one doesn't either. Maybe that one's just a little bit related to anxiety, but definitely the third one, the fear of being a failure and wanting to achieve it and have it be perfect, but being worried that you won't be able to achieve it perfectly. So you push it back so you don't have to become a failure immediately. That one is definitely related to stress and anxiety. I feel like procrastination is such a toxic circle, because obviously it's caused by those symptoms. It's caused by having depression, anxiety, and stress, loneliness, whatever it is, it's caused by that. And then procrastination and continuing to procrastinate and not accomplish your tasks and feeling like you, especially when you are aware that you are procrastinating and you want to stop, but just can't. It just physically feels like you can't stop procrastinating even though you want to. You're like, okay, I am going to do this today. I'm not going to push it back anymore. And then you do. That feeling, I feel like it's so hurtful to yourself. And it feels like letting yourself down, which is so upsetting. It causes more stress, more anxiety, more depression, more reduced life satisfaction. So procrastination is such a toxic circle because it's caused by those symptoms, and then it causes those symptoms, and it's just kind of like a repeat, and you just have to at one point basically step out of that circle and jump for it and do it and go ahead and basically run. It's like a hamster on a hamster wheel, and at one point you just have to jump off of that hamster wheel and run towards your task and get it done. And then once you've accomplished one, you are no longer on that hamster wheel and you can keep on going. That's very weird. I don't know why the hamster wheel thing came up for me. All right, so let's talk about different types of procrastination. This is very interesting because I never would have thought of different types of procrastination before. But there is a study on the different types of procrastination. So I found this study on the different types of procrastination. The psychologist Linda Sapadin, I hope I pronounced that correct. She has a PhD. She is a psychologist, a success coach, an author, and a motivational speaker. According to her, there's 6 different styles of procrastination, 6 different types of, they're called 6 different behavioral styles of procrastination. So they're not, I mean, I guess they're types, but they're behavioral styles of procrastination. Are the perfectionist, dreamer, worrier, crisis maker, defier, and overdoer. So I found this note or this document from Indiana State University that lists all of the characteristics of the different behavioral types of procrastination identified by Dr. Sapadin. I really hope I'm saying that right again. And I could have read it from this article on Healthline. There's an article on Healthline that Dr. Sapadin talks about the different styles, but in that one, it's very, obviously it's an article. And this document from Indiana State University has them in bullet points. So it's just easier for me to read. So I'm reading it from there, and I'm going to go through the different types of procrastination. Perfectionist procrastinator. The characteristics are: tends to put forth excessive amounts of time and energy to make sure that everything they do is perfect. Tend to put off starting tasks due to fear of failure and doubts about doing it the right way. Literally me. Tend to see everything in life as things that have to be done and not necessarily what they want to do. Yes, that's all of those are me. So then the dreamer procrastinator, the characteristics are: tend to recoil from anything that might be difficult or distressing, tend to be passive rather than active, tend to pay little attention to facts or details, making it hard to focus on and perform difficult tasks, tend to think of themselves as special people for whom fate will intervene, making hard work and efficiency unnecessary. The worrier procrastinator, they tend to be indecisive and often fail to commit themselves to a specific decision they do make. They tend to lack confidence in their own abilities, causing them to avoid or delay things. They tend to be dependent upon others for advice, reassurance, nutrients, and help. And tend to have a high resistance to change, preferring the safety of the known over the risk of the unknown. I do relate to this one in some points. I do tend to be indecisive, and then I fail to commit myself to the specific decisions I make. I don't know about that in that specific way. It's more so that I regret every time I'm indecisive and I just finally settle on a decision when it comes to whatever I'm indecisive on, I then regret my decision. If I make a decision and I'm not indecisive, I never end up regretting that decision. But whenever I am consciously aware that I am indecisive and I just go with a decision, I then regret that decision. I'm like, I should have gone with the other one. This is why I was indecisive in the first place. So I guess I relate in that sense. And I also relate to, I don't really like change that much. I like change. I like growth. But I prefer to stick in my known, in my little rules and stuff like that. Then the defier procrastinator. They tend to see life in terms of what others expect and require them to do, not what they themselves would like to do. I feel like that's a hard way of looking at life. They tend to avoid expressing negative feelings. Instead, they convey those feelings by procrastinating. They tend to use procrastination as a way of challenging authority and tend to be pessimistic in nature, undercutting their motivations to complete tasks in a timely manner. Next is the crisis procrastinator. They tend to first ignore the task, then feel intensely caught up in it when faced with undesirable task. That's a little bit weirdly written. They tend to first ignore the task, then feel intensely caught up in it when faced with an undesirable task. Am I stupid or if I don't know what that means? They tend to dramatize situations, making themselves the center of attention. They tend to believe that in order to be motivated to do the task, they need the stress or pressure that is inherent in the last minute action. And they get easily bored and resist the dullness of doing things. Lastly, the overdoer. They commit to doing too many tasks and then fail to prioritize the important tasks, thereby failing to get them done on time. The classic overdoer belief is that if I don't accomplish all of this, then I'm not good enough. They tend to fear not living up to their own impossible standards or the imagined impossible standards of others, which causes them to take on too much and not get the critical tasks done. I do relate to this one as well. I had to end up looking at a different document because the last few of these, the crisis maker and the overdoer by the Indiana State document was cut off, unfortunately. All right, so that's really interesting. I liked hearing about the different types of procrastinators. I think I fall more into the perfectionist and overdoer. No, the worrier. Yeah, I fall into the perfectionist and the worrier the most, I believe. Which one do you guys fall into? Let me know. So now I have found some solutions for each specific style of procrastination, characterized for the specific style and what that specific style does and why, and how to solve that procrastination for each type based off of Linda Spedadine's study. And I'm just going to go through it. So maybe it can help some of you guys to overcome your procrastination instead of just the very stereotypical answers on how to get over procrastination. Actually, let's talk about the stereotypical ways of helping procrastination and how to stop procrastinating. Very like the stereotypical standard kind of solutions to them. So just a quick search. 5 of the top ways said to stop procrastinating is 1, reduce the number of decisions that you need to make throughout the day, because every decision has a consequence, has an energy consequence. And I kind of agree with that. That's something that would probably help me. And also hearing that every decision has an energy consequence is so affirming and reassuring to that thought. 2, finish your day before it starts. What does that specifically mean? It basically means plan your day in advance, and rather than frantically figuring out what you're going to do day by day, a better approach would be to figure out what you're going to do the next day, the night before. I guess yes. Here on this article by Dean Bukhari, written in 2021, it says that you should plan out what you do for the next day, including one big thing. So one major thing that you need to do that day. 1, no matter what, which are non-negotiable daily habits. This author names exercise, a nature walk, reading, and spending time with people that you love. And then 3rd thing is anything else that needs to get done in the way. I guess that is a very good way of categorizing those to-do lists. I will probably start doing this, the one big thing with the no matter what's and whatever else needs to get done. I kind of do it subconsciously, but I'm going to try doing it with a little bit more intent. The other tip he writes, is to have the nothing alternative, which is a tip for avoiding procrastination coined by influential crime fiction novelist Raymond Chandler. Basically, this author, Chandler, his way of overcoming procrastination was to give himself an ultimatum and say, write or do nothing at all. And it's just pretty straightforward. It's either so it was basically, you don't have to write or work on whatever you need to work on. But if you don't do that, then you can't do anything else. So you only have two options. It's either focus on your one important thing or do nothing. So you can't, basically putting rules to, you either do what you have to do or you can't procrastinate and just watch TV. If you aren't doing what you have to do, you have to sit and do nothing. I don't know if that would work, at least not for me personally, but I mean, maybe if you are strong-willed enough, then that would work. But I feel like if you're strong-willed enough to do this method, then you're not going to procrastinate in the first place, but I may be wrong. The next tip is to do something doable. Start by doing things that are more achievable, easily achievable, and then move on to the next things. And then the fifth tip is to adjust your environment. So yeah, I feel like those are the main solutions I always hear to procrastination. Well, the main solutions I always hear to procrastination is to change your environment, to plan out your day the day before, and to take it step by step, basically. Focusing on the easiest thing and then go on to the harder thing. I've also heard do the hardest thing first, and then that way you leave the smallest thing so you get the hardest thing out of the way. And for my mind, I think that works a lot easier because I'd rather get the hardest thing out of the way and work on the easier stuff later. But I always do the opposite. I always do the easiest stuff because I'm like, oh, they'll be easy, they'll be quick, I'll get them out of the way. And then it gets to the time to do the hardest one and I'm like, I don't want to do it anymore. So those are the basic types of tips to solve procrastination. And now let's take a look at the directed solutions for procrastination based off of your style type and see if they change a little bit, if it makes a little bit more sense based off of your behavior for your specific type of procrastination, specific reason behind procrastination. So starting with the perfectionist, the solutions listed by Linda Savadine are appreciate that it is your perfectionism, not external standards that make you do what you do. So basically, be aware of how your brain works and accept it as such. I feel like that makes total sense to me. Another tip for the perfectionist is to set realistic, not idealistic goals before starting. Okay, I've started doing this recently and I will say it has made a difference in my procrastination. I used to feel very idealistic in my goals, and I still do. I still list 15 things that I have to do in a day. I'm still like, okay, let's do 15 things today. And before, I used to be like, you have to get to them, and basically feel like I had to. And then when I didn't, because obviously it's impossible that you will, I would then feel very upset with the fact that I didn't get all 15 things today. Versus now, I still do list the 15 things because I do genuinely want to get those 15 things done. But I also realistically know that I won't. And I tell myself that every single time I set up my to-do list. I'm like, okay, realistically, I won't get these things done. Realistically, I can achieve these 3 things, and that is what I'm going to set to do. So I'm setting realistic goals to achieve those 3 things. And I'm also setting idealistic goals, I guess, but it's just because I feel like I have to list them. I feel like I have to list them or else I'll forget about them and I'll never do them again. And if I list them, even if I know I won't do them today, they'll be in my head to list them tomorrow. Like yesterday, I listed that I had to record the podcast, I had to finish the pottery, journal, and look for jobs and stuff like that. I only did the looking for jobs. I didn't really do much else. But today I wrote the podcast, the journaling, the pottery, and et cetera, et cetera. And I'm doing the podcast. So there we go. So yesterday I knew yesterday that I wasn't going to do the podcast because I wasn't in the right mindset to do it. So yesterday I told myself, I listed all those things and I said, no, only do the jobs and the journal. I didn't end up doing the journal, but I knew I had set the realistic goal of only doing those two things versus all of them. And there was more on my list, obviously. Oh, actually, yesterday I didn't end up doing the journaling because I ended up reorganizing my fridge and my kitchen just spontaneously. So that wasn't on my to-do list, but I ended up doing it because I was putting away groceries and restocking. And I saw the fridge and I was like, let me reorganize it. And I started doing that instead. So what was I saying? The perfectionist solutions, set realistic, not idealistic goals before starting. And like I said, I believe that this works. Focus on progress towards your goals. Again, something that I'm doing. Engage in positive self-talk. Another thing that I'm doing. Wow. I really am a perfectionist procrastinator, and I'm finally learning the solutions, and I've been putting these in place. I'm really glad. Maybe that's why the solutions have been working for me the past week. So let's see how well they turn out in the future, continuing with all of these things that it says I should do. Next, for a solution for the perfectionist is set time limits for each task. I don't really do this one, but I will start. I'll see about implementing that as well. Learn to make mistakes and really do so deliberately and see what happens. See, I don't do that. I can't, the worrier procrastinator in me will struggle a little bit with that one, but yeah, so basically appreciate your perfectionist, set realistic goals, focus on progress towards your goals, engage in positive self-talk, set time limits, and learn to make mistakes are all solutions for the perfectionist procrastinator. I do a few. The only ones I don't do is the set time limits and learn to make mistakes. I will definitely try to implement both of those and see how it goes. Next is the dreamer procrastinator. So the solutions for the dreamer are try turning some of your dreams into concrete goals and spend time on them regularly. I actually started doing this recently as well because I wouldn't say I'm a dreamer procrastinator, but I am very much a dreamer. And I feel like I have very high goals and what's the word? I guess they're broad, big, I guess slightly unachievable goals, or they feel very big and unreachable, unattainable. So I've started dividing the dream into different goals to achieve that dream and starting from the bottom to the top of it and working my way up in those goals to then achieve the dream. And so basically the first goal to achieving that dream is a realistic, achievable goal that will then lead to another goal, which will then kind of move up and lead towards the dream, hopefully. So basically dividing your dream into different goals ranging from the first one to be the most achievable, if that makes sense. It also says, figure out how academic success can make you feel good about yourself. Pleasure doesn't only come from external sources. You are not exceptional. The same standards and exceptions apply to you. Damn. And don't wait for the spirit to move you. Learn to harness your energy. I agree with that one. It's kind of how I had in the mindset of starting the podcast, of not waiting for opportunity to come to me to do something concrete and permanent in my life and to figure something or to do something that I want to do, not waiting for that opportunity, but just doing it. So don't wait for the spirit to move you, but learn how to harness that energy. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. The dreamer solutions feels a little bit more like dreamy, I guess, a little bit more not concrete, not kind of physical solutions, more like mental solutions and mental work that you have to do. So we'll see. Maybe I would add for the dreamer procrastinator to also journal, or not necessarily journal, but writing your dreams and your goals down and kind of writing them on paper can make them feel a little bit more achievable and can make you see them like physically, like on paper, versus seeing them just in your head. I feel like a dreamer, because I don't consider myself a dreamer procrastinator. I don't really fit that type of characteristic that from what I read, but I do feel like I am very much a dreamer, maybe just not in the procrastination sense. And I just see a lot of my dreams and my goals very open and in the air because they're in my mind. I never really write them down. And so I feel like for a dreamer procrastinator, maybe try writing down your dreams and your goals and all of the things that you want to achieve. And then from there, you can see them physically and you can kind of see how they need to be approached to achieve them. So maybe that will work because these solutions listed here just feel very broad and still kind of in mental sense and not really concrete or kind of like written down sense. Like the perfectionist solutions was like set time limits and, I feel like appreciate your perfectionism is a mental solution. It's something that you have to work on mentally, but setting the time limits and setting realistic goals, those feel like something, maybe it's just the way that I'm seeing them because I guess it's all like mental solutions, but they feel more like steps that you can take, whereas the other ones are kind of, you have to change your mindset and that comes with a lot of mental work. So the dreamer feels like a lot of more changing your mindset and readjusting kind of how you think versus something that you can just kind of implement from one day to another. That's how I would describe it a little bit better. All right. So for the worrier, solutions for the worrier is to remember that not to decide is to decide. That's an interesting thing. Delaying decisions changes the course of your life. Oh my God, I agree. Turning nerves into excitement. Sorry. So you should turn your nerves into excitement. Don't catastrophize. So not everything has to feel overwhelming. That's very difficult to do. Like I said, this feels like a mental solution in the sense that you really have to change your mindset and it's something that you have to really, really work on. It's not something you can just implement from one day to another. So not catastrophizing is not something that you can just implement from one day to another. That's something that you really have to work on mentally to change. It also says for the worrier, believe in yourself. It'll make you less fragile. I don't like the way that that's written. Commit and then figure out how to accomplish something. So commit to whatever you want to do and then figure out how to accomplish it afterwards. Don't let qualifiers and negative statements creep into your mind. Again, something very hard to achieve from one day to another. Hang out with optimists. So basically change your environment and hang out with more people who are optimistic to kind of see their perspective and change how you're thinking. And I do agree that it's kind of like fake it until you make it, basically. The more that you are in a different environment and the environment you want to be in, the more it will kind of seep into your brain. Answer your what ifs with a plan. That is very important, I think. See, that is something that you can kind of do day to day and that you can implement it a lot easier than just kind of don't catastrophize. That's something that will take a lot of mental work and thought and changing and really trying to work on that to do. Whereas answer your what ifs with a plan, I feel like that's a slightly bit easier. You can kind of just sit down with a piece of paper, write down your what ifs, write down what you're worried about, and then come up with a solution. And something that I learned in therapy is also to your what ifs and to what you think is going to be the worst case scenario, or not to what you think is going to be the worst case scenario, to your what ifs and your worries. You write down your worries, right? Kind of just list them down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You write down your worries and then right next to it, write down the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. Really dig deep and think about the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. And a lot of the times you'll find that the worst case scenario isn't that bad. And so you should just go ahead. Some of the times it is really bad though, because then you kind of catastrophize. So there has been situations where I've catastrophized and the worst case scenario is really bad. But I also know it's the catastrophizing is also slightly more unrealistic, like the worst case scenario is like death, something like that. It's like something really, really bad, and stuff that is a little bit more unrealistic. I mean, not that death is unrealistic. Anyways, you know what I mean. A lot of the times the worst case scenario is something that is it's not really related to that worry. It's just kind of you catastrophizing. So just kind of look at it from the best case scenario perspective. And there are also people who don't really think about the best case scenario when they are worrying. They only think about the worst case scenario. So then they're like, oh, I can't do this because then this is going to happen, aka the worst case scenario. But if you write down the best case scenario as well, and you kind of really think about the best case scenario, then you'll see what's possible, and it'll make you want to do that more because you know that in the best case scenario, this is going to happen. And a lot of the times it's nowhere near the worst case scenario. A lot of the times when you do something that you're worried about, it's closer to the best case scenario than the worst case scenario. Anyways, I don't know if that helped. I kind of rambled a little bit. So back to the solutions for the procrastinators. That was it for the worrier. Oh, it also says, this one I forgot to mention. It also says, break bigger projects into pieces. I don't know if I said that. I think I mentioned that for the dreamer. But I think that is important. If you break bigger projects into tiny pieces. Oh yeah, I did mention it for the worrier. Not for the worrier, I did mention it for the dreamer. And it works for the worrier as well. If you break down a project into smaller pieces, it'll just help you focus on one step at a time. I started doing that as well recently. Next is the defier. So solutions for the defier is take responsibility for where you are and the choices that got you there. Negotiate when possible. You just might get your way. Choose your battles and consider all of the consequences. Remember the relationship between short and long-term choices, and set aside time to do the things that you enjoy. Channel your rebellious side into a cause that you care about. I feel like all of these make sense for the defier. I don't really have that personality, so I don't know if these would work. For me personally, I feel like I don't know if they would. The channel your rebellious side into a cause that you care about, I do feel like would work. Basically redirecting your, I guess, anger, stress, and anxiety towards something good, or redirecting whatever it is in a different way and in a different light, I think works. Next is the crisis maker. So solutions for the crisis maker is think about multiple reasons to do an assignment instead of only last minute stress. Oh, because crisis maker, I was confused on that one. It's because crisis maker normally thinks that they will do better if they are doing it last minute and stressing about it. So think about multiple reasons to do an assignment or a task, I guess, instead of assignment is very student based. But yeah, like if you, multiple reasons could be if you do it now, then you don't have to worry about it later. You have time to do your personal stuff. I feel like those are the only two reasons I could ever come up with for doing something in the moment and not procrastinating, but there might be more for you. It also says for a crisis maker to recognize that you don't know if you'll enjoy an assignment until you start it. Oh, that's very smart. Yeah. It says you are not a victim. See tasks as opportunities. I don't like how that's worded again. Then it says, remember the positive aspects of your responsibilities, reward yourself for getting started earlier, and get your adrenaline going with other activities. I agree with the last two, reward yourself and get your adrenaline going with other activities. Basically, getting yourself excited to do the things that you have to do and looking at them as fun tasks versus chores. I think that's a good way to stop procrastinating, and rewarding yourself also. Obviously, positive reinforcement is, very accurate and works. So basically, crisis maker, just do some positive reinforcement to yourself and positive thinking. And lastly, for the overdoer solutions are to remember that nobody has it all and that you have to prioritize and decide what you care about. Your success should come before making other people happy. And remember that you are in control. So take control. Learn to say no, and you are entitled to relax and reward yourself. Don't feel guilty for doing so. Be more proactive than reactive and ask for help. I feel like these are very good solutions and tips for the overdoer, and just in general, really, for a lot of people. I think these also fit for other styles of procrastination. Like, I think they fit for the perfectionists and for the worrier and for maybe the crisis maker. Take control, learn to say no. Remember, you are entitled to relax and to reward yourself, and to not feel guilty for doing that, not feel guilty for taking time to do something for yourself, and to ask for help. I feel like those are very important. All right, so those are all the solutions for the different types of procrastinators, and in general, solutions for procrastinating. I hope this helped some of you guys. I'm definitely going to start implementing some of these solutions that I talked about. There are some that I already do, that I've started doing recently, and I have seen that progress and that change for good. So I definitely think if you guys haven't done or haven't started trying any of these solutions, I think that the ones that I talked about that have worked for me do really work. So you guys should try them as well, because they might work for you as well. And I'm going to try implementing some other ones and see how they work. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found it really interesting to learn about the different behavioral types of procrastinating, and to hear about my specific experience with procrastinating. I'd love to know which type of procrastinator you are based off of the types that we discussed. If you want to comment on, I'll probably do a poll for this on Spotify. Yeah, I'm going to do a poll option for this on Spotify. So if you want to answer the poll for which procrastinator are you, I would love to see the results. And yeah, I'm very excited for next week as well. Next week, I'm going to have a guest, one of my best friends. Yeah, that was it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. I am now going to go have lunch. Thank you so much for listening. Did I say that already? Probably. All right. Follow me on Instagram at the Postcard Podcast and at Reb in Progress. Talk to you soon.